Ambassador Park Mina took her first step onto the alien space station and immediately felt like she was walking into a dream. The floor beneath her boots was made of some kind of metal that seemed to glow from within, casting soft blue light that made everything look underwater. Above her head, the ceiling stretched so high she could barely see it, covered in what looked like moving stars. She had trained for this moment for 3 years, but nothing could prepare her for the reality of being surrounded by aliens. Real aliens. Not the computer simulations back on Earth, but actual beings from other worlds who moved and breathed and watched her with eyes that had never seen a human before. Captain Lee Jinwoo walked beside her, his military uniform perfectly pressed despite the long journey from Earth. His hand rested naturally near his weapon, but Mina knew it was more habit than threat. The gun would be useless here anyway. If these aliens wanted to hurt them, human weapons would be like throwing rocks at a battleship. Behind them, Dr. Kim Tae-hyun was trying to record everything at once. His scanner beeped quietly as it analyzed the air, the walls, even the strange music that seemed to come from nowhere. His eyes were wide behind his glasses as he stared at creatures that looked like they had stepped out of nightmares and fairy tales. The first alien they met was tall and thin like a tree branch, with skin that changed colors as it moved. It spoke through a small device attached to its throat, and somehow the machine made its words sound like perfect Korean. "Welcome to Galactic Station Harmony," it said, though its mouth never moved. "I am Guide 17. I will show you to your quarters." As they walked through the corridors, Mina tried not to stare at the other beings they passed. There was something that looked like a floating jellyfish made of light, drifting through the air and leaving sparkles behind it. A group of rock-like creatures moved past them with heavy footsteps that shook the floor. One alien was so tall it had to bend down to fit under the ceiling, while another was so small it rode on what looked like a tiny flying carpet. There are representatives from 47 different worlds here. Guide 17 explained as they walked. Some breathe different air than you, so they must stay in special rooms. Others cannot be in the same space as certain other species, for safety reasons. Dr. Kim whispered to Mina in Korean, "The technology here is incredible. Look at the walls. They're not just metal. They're alive somehow, adjusting temperature and air quality automatically." His scanner was going crazy with readings he had never seen before. They passed through what looked like a garden, except the plants were made of crystal and sang little songs when the wind touched them. Fish swam through the air above them, somehow breathing without water. Everything was beautiful and impossible and slightly terrifying. "Your people are new to galactic society," Guide 17 continued. "You will find many things different from your home world, but do not worry. The Council has prepared suitable accommodations for your primitive needs." The word primitive hit Mina like a slap, but she kept her face calm. She had expected this. Earth's technology was nothing compared to what she was seeing here, but the way the aliens said it, like they were children who needed to be taken care of, made her stomach tighten with worry. Their quarters were in what was obviously the cheap section of the station. The rooms were comfortable enough, but they felt small and simple compared to the wonders they had seen on their walk. Through the window, Mina could see the planet below, a beautiful blue and green world covered in swirling clouds. "Tomorrow you will present your people's request to the Grand Council," Guide 17 said. "Rest well. The Council is very interested in what humanity has to offer the galaxy." After the alien left, the 3 humans stood in silence for a moment. Captain Lee checked the room for listening devices out of habit, while Dr. Kim continued scanning everything with his instruments. "Did you notice how they looked at us?" Mina asked quietly. "Not like equals, like we're some kind of exotic pets they're deciding whether to keep. The technology gap is bigger than we thought," Dr. Kim said, studying his readings. "Some of what I'm seeing here should be impossible according to our physics. We're not just behind. We're like Stone Age people walking into a modern city." Captain Lee nodded grimly. "I counted at least 12 different weapon systems just on our walk here, and those were just the obvious ones. If they wanted to hurt us, we wouldn't even see it coming." Mina looked out at the alien sky, filled with ships and stations and things that move in ways that defied understanding. Tomorrow she would stand before the most powerful beings in the galaxy and ask them to accept humanity as equals. But after what she had seen today, She was starting to wonder if they would even be allowed to remain free. The weight of representing her entire species pressed down on her shoulders as she watched alien ships dance between the stars like fireflies, each one probably more advanced than anything humans had ever built. The Grand Council chamber was nothing like anything Park Mina had ever imagined. The room was shaped like a giant ball, with no clear floor or ceiling. Representatives from different worlds floated at various levels in bubbles of air and light, each one breathing different gases and living in different temperatures. Some hung upside down from what might be the ceiling, while others drifted sideways through the middle of the space. At the very top of the chamber sat High Chancellor Vorthak, a creature that looked like a praying mantis crossed with a snake. His body was covered in green and black scales that shifted colors when he moved, and his forearms ended in claws that could probably cut through steel. When he spoke, his voice filled the entire chamber like thunder. Mina stood on a small platform that had risen from the floor, feeling tiny under the gaze of dozens of alien eyes. Some of those eyes were compound like an insect's, others glowed with their own light, and a few looked like they could see right through her. Captain Lee Jin-woo and Dr. Kim Tae-hyun waited below on the main floor, their faces turned upward toward her. Beings of the Council, Mina began, her voice amplified by technology she couldn't understand. I come before you today representing the human species of Earth. We seek friendship and partnership with the great civilizations gathered here. She had practiced the speech 1,000 times, carefully choosing words that showed respect while maintaining dignity. She spoke about humanity's desire to learn and contribute, about their scientific achievements and cultural diversity. She talked about the potential benefits of cooperation between species. But even as she spoke, she could see the reaction in the chamber. Some aliens were making sounds that her translator couldn't convert, probably laughter. Others had turned away completely, as if her words weren't worth listening to. A few were having quiet conversations among themselves, ignoring her entirely. When she finished, the silence lasted for several long seconds. Then Counselor Naketh of the Hegemony spoke up. He was a massive creature with too many teeth and skin like molten metal. How amusing, he said, and his words dripped with mockery. A species that has barely learned to leave its own solar system wants to join civilizations that have ruled the galaxy for 1,000,000 years. The chamber filled with more sounds. Clicking, buzzing, and musical tones of the translator turned into laughter. Mina felt her cheeks burn with embarrassment, but she kept her face calm. Representative Quilera, who looked like a living tree made of silver, spoke next. Have you examined their mathematics, colleagues? They still use addition and subtraction like children learning to count. Their fastest ships move slower than our cargo vessels. Their weapons are particularly primitive, added another voice. Mina couldn't see who was speaking because the alien was hidden behind a cloud of purple gas. Chemical explosives and metal projectiles. We stopped using such things before your species learned to make fire. Dr. Kim Tae-hyun's hands clenched into fists as he listened to his life's work being dismissed as child's play. Captain Lee's jaw was tight with anger, but both men knew they had to stay silent. This was Mina's show. The worst came from Prime Facet, a crystalline being that looked like a living diamond. Its voice was cold and precise like a computer. Analysis of human biology reveals severe limitations. Lifespan approximately 80 Earth years. Brain capacity insufficient for advanced mathematics. Physical strength adequate only for manual labor tasks. It was talking about humans like they were livestock being evaluated at a market. Mina realized with growing horror that this wasn't a diplomatic meeting at all. It was an inspection. But perhaps, Counselor Naked continued with fake kindness, there is still some use for your species. Humans appear capable of basic tool use and can survive in environments suitable for construction work. Your breeding rate is acceptable for maintaining worker populations. The chamber buzzed with what sounded like approval. These beings weren't considering humanity for membership in their galactic community. They were discussing how best to use humans as slaves. Your DNA shows interesting adaptability, Prime Facet added. With proper genetic modification, humans could be optimized for various labor functions: mining operations, agricultural development, infrastructure maintenance. Mina felt sick. They were talking about changing human DNA, about breeding people like farm animals for specific jobs. She looked down at Captain Lee and Dr. Kim, both of whom looked as horrified as she felt. "The Council is wise and generous," Mina managed to say, though her voice nearly broke. "However, I should point out that humanity has always valued its independence. We prefer to choose our own path." This brought even more laughter from the chamber. High Chancellor Vorthack's scales darkened as he looked down at her. Choice is a luxury afforded to equals, human. You'll find that the galaxy has little patience with preferences of primitive species. The meeting continued for another hour, but it became clear that no real discussion was taking place. The aliens had already decided humanity's fate. They were just enjoying the show of watching humans realize how powerless they were. As the session ended, Mina walked back to their quarters with her delegation in stunned silence. They had come here hoping to join a galactic community as partners. Instead, they had discovered that Earth was surrounded by predators who saw humans as nothing more than useful animals to be domesticated and put to work. High Chancellor Vorthack's forearms spread wide as he addressed the chamber, his scaled face showing what might have been satisfaction. "The Council has reached its decision regarding the human petition." His voice boomed to the spherical room, making the floating platforms vibrate slightly. "We are prepared to offer humanity a place in our great confederation." Park Mina felt a moment of hope before the next words crushed it completely. As a protected tributary species, Vorthack continued, and the way he said protected made it sound like a cage door slamming shut. The terms came like hammer blows. A holographic document appeared in the air above Mina's platform, written in symbols that her translator converted into Korean text. Each line was worse than the last. Earth's natural resources will be managed by hegemony overseers for maximum efficiency and galactic benefit. Human population would be maintained at sustainable levels not exceeding 2 billion individuals. Excess population would be relocated to appropriate work colonies throughout hegemony space. Humans would provide labor for essential galactic infrastructure projects, including mining operations, agricultural development, and construction of military installations. In return, the hegemony promised to protect Earth from aggressive alien species and share appropriate technology to improve human living conditions. Dr. Kim Tae-hyun was frankly taking notes, his face growing paler with each new requirement. Captain Lee Jinwoo stood perfectly still, but Mina could see the muscles in his neck standing out like wire cables. "The Council is most generous," Mina said carefully, her diplomatic training taking over even as her mind reeled. "However, as Earth's representative, I must consult with my government before accepting such a significant agreement. Might we request 48 hours to consider these terms?" The chamber erupted in sounds that needed no translation. Alien laughter, chittering, and musical tones that all meant the same thing. They found her request hilarious. Counselor Nakata's metallic skin rippled with amusement. "Consult? My dear primitive creature, surely you understand this is not a negotiation." He gestured with one massive claw, and new holograms filled the chamber. Mina's blood went cold as she recognized what she was seeing. It was human space mapped in perfect detail. Every planet, every space station, every shipping route between Earth and its colonies. Red markers showed the positions of what could only be alien warships. Dozens of them, positioned throughout human territory like pieces on a chessboard. "We have been observing your species for 73 of your years," Naked continued with obvious pride. "We know the location of every human settlement, every military base, every ship in your pathetic little fleet. Did you think we would invite you here without first ensuring your cooperation?" The display zoomed in on Earth itself, showing orbital platforms and defense satellites that humanity thought were secret. Then it shifted to the colonies, New Solon Kepler 442c, the mining stations around Wolf 359, the research outposts in the Vega system. All of them had red markers nearby, indicating alien ships already in position. "Your military consists of approximately 230 vessels," Prime Facet announced in its cold, crystal voice. "Our advanced scouts number over 800. Our main battle fleets are not required for this operation." Representative Quillara's silver branches rustled with what sounded like laughter. "Your weapons cannot penetrate our shielding. Your fastest ships move like insects compared to ours. Your total military budget for 1 year equals the cost of a single one of our escort vessels. Dr. Kim whispered something under his breath that Mina didn't catch, but his tone made it sound like a prayer. Captain Lee's hand had moved to rest on his weapon, though they all knew how useless it would be here. You have 72 standard hours to accept our protection, High Chancellor Vortak announced. The timer appeared in the hologram above them, counting down. This generous offer will not be extended indefinitely. And if we refuse? Mina asked, though she already knew the answer. Vortak's scales shifted to a darker color. Refusal would be unfortunate. Unprotected species face many dangers in galactic space. Pirates, resource conflicts, territorial disputes with neighbors. Few survive such challenges without proper guidance. The threat was clear without being spoken directly. Accept slavery or face extinction. There are many ways for accidents to happen to primitive species, Counselor Naketh added helpfully. Solar flares that damage communication systems. Asteroid impacts that destroy colonies. Equipment failures that cause life support to malfunction. The galaxy is a dangerous place for those without friends. Mina looked around the chamber at dozens of alien faces, all watching her with the same expression predators might have while cornering wounded prey. These beings had already decided humanity's fate. This ceremony was just their way of making it seem legal. The countdown timer showed 71 hours, 58 minutes, and 37 seconds remaining. Enough time for humanity to realize how hopeless their situation was, but not enough time to do anything about it. I understand the Council's position, Mina said finally. We will provide our answer within the designated time frame. As the session ended and the aliens began dispersing to their various sections of the station, Mina remained on her platform, staring at a holographic display of human space surrounded by enemy ships. Somewhere out there, billions of people were going about their daily lives, completely unaware that their freedom had just been sold to creatures who saw them as nothing more than useful animals. The timer kept counting down, each second bringing humanity closer to a choice between slavery and annihilation. Ambassador Park Mina stood slowly in her quarters, staring out at the alien stars through the viewport. The countdown timer on the wall showed 68 hours remaining. Captain Lee Jinwoo sat at the small table, cleaning his sidearm with mechanical precision, while Dr. Kim Tae-hyun paced back and forth, muttering calculations under his breath. They think they know everything about us, Mina said quietly. 73 years of observation, they said. Every ship, every base, every colony mapped and marked for destruction. The arrogance is incredible, Kim replied, stopping his pacing. They assume that because they can see our obvious installations, they've seen everything, like we would put our most important facilities where anyone could find them. Lee looked up from his weapon. The question is whether Admiral Kong received our transmission, and whether Project Prometheus actually works. Mina turned away from the window. For the past day, she had been the perfect diplomat. Polite, respectful, asking careful questions that revealed nothing. But now, alone with her team, she could drop the mask. It has to work, because if it doesn't, humanity dies in 3 days. A soft chime from the door interrupted them. Enter, Mina called, quickly resuming her diplomatic composure. Guide 17 flowed into the room, its tree-like body shifting colors from blue to green. Ambassador Park, the Council requests your presence for final clarification of terms. The Grand Council chamber felt different this time. The aliens seemed more relaxed, confident that the humans had accepted their fate. High Chancellor Vortak's scales were bright green, apparently a sign of good mood among the species. Ambassador, Vortak began, we trust you have had sufficient time to consider our generous offer? Indeed, Mina replied with a diplomatic smile. However, I do have some questions to ensure a complete understanding of the terms. What followed was 20 minutes of the most careful legal questioning Mina had ever conducted. She parsed every word of their protection agreement, exposing the brutal reality hidden beneath diplomatic language. How exactly would population levels be maintained? What happened to the excess 3 billion humans currently alive? Which specific labor projects would humans be assigned to? The aliens grew visibly irritated with her detailed questions. Counselor Nakatha's metallic skin rippled with annoyance. These administrative details need not concern primitive minds. Of course, Mina said sweetly. But as Earth's representative, I must be thorough. One final question, if I may. She paused, letting the chamber quiet. What typically happens to species that decline the Council's protection? The temperature in the chamber seemed to drop. High Chancellor Vorthax, scales darkened to deep purple. Unprotected species face many hazards in galactic space. Equipment failures, navigation errors, hostile encounters with less civilized neighbors. Very few survive long without proper guidance. Prime Facet's crystalline voice was coldly precise. Statistical analysis shows 97% mortality rate among species, refusing council protection within 50 standard years. Most experience total extinction within 20 years. How unfortunate, Mina said, nodding thoughtfully. Such accidents must be quite common. Tragically so. Counselor Naked agreed with fake sympathy. The galaxy is dangerous for those who lack the wisdom to accept help when offered. Mina turned to Captain Lee. Captain, would you please transmit authorization code Phoenix Dawn to Admiral Kong? Lee's eyes widened almost imperceptibly, but his training took over. He spoke clearly into his wrist communicator, using the old Korean military protocol that none of the aliens would understand. Phoenix Dawn authorized. Repeat, Phoenix Dawn is authorized. All assets to active status immediately. The aliens barely paid attention to this primitive communication method. To them, it was like watching children play with tin cans connected by string. Dr. Kim continued recording everything with a scanner, his expression carefully neutral despite understanding the true significance of what had just happened. Somewhere in human space, systems that had been sleeping for decades were beginning to wake up. Excellent, Mina said as Lee finished the transmission. Now, regarding the Council's offer, she spent another 10 minutes asking more questions, each one designed to waste time while appearing cooperative. The aliens answered with growing impatience, eager to formalize humanity's surrender. Finally, High Chancellor Vorthax cut her off. Enough questions, human. The terms are clear and generous. The Council requires your answer. Mina smiled her most diplomatic smile. Of course, I will provide our formal response tomorrow morning, allowing my government sufficient time to prepare the necessary documentation. As they left the chamber, Captain Lee's communicator crackled softly. In rapid Korean, a voice reported, Phoenix Dawn confirmed. Admiral Kong sends greetings. All Protocol 7 assets are operational and standing by. Dr. Kim allowed himself a tiny smile as his instruments detected unusual energy readings from deep space, readings that shouldn't exist according to everything the aliens thought they knew about human technology. Back in their quarters, the three humans sat in silence for a long moment. The countdown timer showed 54 hours remaining. Do you think they suspect? Kim asked quietly. They're too arrogant to suspect anything, Lee replied. To them, we're just animals smart enough to use simple tools. Mina looked out at the stars again, but now she was looking for something specific. Somewhere out there, in regions of space the aliens had never bothered to explore properly, humanity's real defenses were powering up for the first time. Tomorrow, she said softly, they're going to learn what humans are really capable of. The Grand Council chamber buzzed with anticipation as Ambassador Park Mina took her position on the speaking platform for the final time. The countdown timer floating above showed 18 hours remaining, but the aliens clearly expected this to be a formality. High Chancellor Vorthax scales were bright gold with satisfaction, while Counselor Nakatha's metallic skin rippled with barely contained amusement. Honored representatives, Mina began, her voice carrying clearly through the spherical chamber. I have carefully considered the Council's generous offer of protection. She paused, looking up at the floating aliens who watched her like predators, observing cornered prey. However, I believe there's been a fundamental misunderstanding about human nature that I should clarify. A few aliens made chittering sounds of impatience. They wanted her to simply accept the terms and be done with it. Throughout our history, Mina continued, my species has faced this same choice repeatedly. Surrender our freedom for promised safety, or fight against impossible odds for the right to choose our own path. We have survived ice ages that killed most life on our planet. We have endured plagues that wiped out half our population. We have fought wars that burned entire continents. Representative Quillara's silver branches rustle with what sounded like boredom. Ancient history is irrelevant. You face galactic civilization now, not primitive tribal conflicts. You misunderstand, Mina replied, her voice growing stronger. Every time we face that choice between safety and freedom, we chose a harder path. Every time someone offered to protect us in exchange for our independence, we said no, even when it meant death. High Chancellor Vorthack's mandibles clicked dismissively. You speak of choosing extinction over prosperity. How remarkably illogical. Mina's smile was cold as winter starlight. You offer us two choices, slavery or death. But humans have never accepted those as our only options. Throughout history, whenever someone has tried to put chains on us, we have always chosen the same response. Her voice rang through the chamber like a bell. If those are truly our only choices, then it's war. The chamber erupted in alien laughter. Sounds like breaking glass, musical chimes, and mechanical buzzing fill the air as dozens of species express their amusement at the absurd threat. War. Counselor Nakata's voice boomed with mirth. Your primitive weapons against civilizations that have conquered entire galaxies? Your 200 ships against our thousands. You studied us for 73 years, Mina said calmly, but you only observed our peaceful expansion. You mapped our colonies and trade routes, counted our obvious military assets, analyzed our public technology. You never wondered what we might have built in the places your scouts couldn't reach. Captain Lee Jinwa's communicator crackled to life. In clear Korean, Admiral Kang's voice carried across the chamber. Phoenix Dawn confirmed active. All Protocol 7 installations are online. Project Prometheus shows green across all boards. We have 47 heavy assets in position and ready for your signal. The aliens were still laughing, dismissing the primitive communication as meaningless chatter. But Dr. Kim Tae-hyun was no longer trying to hide his smile as his scanners detected massive energy signatures appearing throughout human space. You assumed our desire for peace meant we were incapable of war. Mina continued as the chamber's long-range sensors began registering impossible readings. You thought that because we chose diplomacy over conquest, we must be weak. You saw us as harmless because we prefer to explore rather than invade. The laughter began to die down as some of the more perceptive aliens noticed the sensor readings appearing on their displays. Energy signatures that hadn't been there moments before. Massive installations powering up in systems the aliens had thought were empty. That was your mistake, Mina said, her voice carrying absolute conviction. You see, Authorization Phoenix Dawn wasn't just a message to our fleet. It was a signal to every deep space installation, every research station, every hidden facility we build in the regions your scouts avoid. Prime Facet's crystalline form pulsed with alarm as its sensors registered readings that violated several supposedly universal physical laws. Impossible. Our surveys detected no major installations in those sectors. You surveyed the obvious places, Dr. Kim said, speaking for first time in the chamber. You looked where any civilized species would put their facilities. But humans aren't civilized by your standards, remember? We build in places where no sane species would go. The radiation zones you avoid. The gravity wells you consider too dangerous. The dark matter storms you navigate around. The chamber's main display flickered as long-range sensors detected ships emerging from regions of space that had appeared empty for decades. Vessels whose design principles suggested technologies that shouldn't exist yet, using energy sources that human science was supposedly incapable of harnessing. For 73 years, you watched us expand peacefully into 37 star systems, Mina said as more impossible readings appeared on the displays. But you never noticed the 41 systems where we built other things. The facilities we constructed in places too hostile for your survey ships. The weapons we developed while hoping we'd never need to use them. High Chancellor Vorthack's scales had gone completely black, a sign of extreme distress among his kind. The energy readings are impossible. Your species lacks the theoretical knowledge for such technology. Captain Lee allowed himself a grin. We're very good at learning from our mistakes. And our biggest mistake was assuming the galaxy would welcome us as friends. As alarms began sounding throughout the alien station, Mina and her delegation calmly walked toward the exit. Her final words echoed through the chamber as panic spread among the council members. Humanity offers friendship to any species that approaches in peace. But we bow to no one, and we will never accept chains. Come as friends, and find generous allies. Come as conquerors, and discover what 10,000 years of survival has taught us about protecting what we love. The last thing the aliens saw was a human ship departing the station, while their sensors detected the emergence of an entire hidden fleet from the dark spaces between stars.